The diplomatic meeting room aboard Unity Station felt cold despite the climate controls running perfectly. Commander Lee Jinwoo sat across from the strangest beings he had ever seen. The Kethran delegation looked like living crystals, their bodies catching and reflecting the bright lights above. They moved very little, standing in perfect formation like statues. Ambassador Velnoon spoke through a small device that translated his words. His voice sounded like wind chimes mixed with static. Commander Lee, the Kethran Collective thanks humans for this meeting. We have traveled far to speak with your species. We are honored by your presence, Jinwoo replied carefully. Every word mattered in first contact. One mistake could end peaceful relations forever. Our people hope to learn much from each other. Dr. Park Minha sat beside the commander, taking notes on her tablet. As the lead scientist studying alien life, she found the Kethran fascinating. Their crystal bodies seemed to glow with internal light, and they barely moved except to speak. We must discuss the rules for our meetings, Velnoon continued. The Kethran people follow ancient ways. We do not change. We do not adapt. We are perfect as we are. Behind the ambassador, 5 other Kethran stood silently, but one of them, the smallest and youngest looking, kept turning her head slightly. She seemed to be looking at something beyond the meeting room walls. Of course, Jinwoo said. We respect your customs completely. Good. We must also speak about food, Velnoon said, his translated voice growing stern. Your people invited us to share meals. This is impossible. Kethran consume only pure mineral essence. We process rocks and metals into nutrition. The eating of organic matter is primitive and disgusting. Dr. Minha looked up from her notes. We understand. We can provide mineral supplements if needed. That will not be necessary. We brought our own supplies. Velnoon's form seemed to shimmer with what might have been disapproval. We hope humans will not be offended by our refusal to participate in your eating rituals. The young Kethran behind him moved again, this time turning to look directly through the observation window. On the other side of the glass, human crew members were visible in their living quarters. Some sat around tables, sharing food and talking. Others laughed while preparing meals together. Not at all, Jinwoo assured them. We want you to feel comfortable here. The meetings continued for hours. The Kethran spoke about trade agreements and territorial boundaries. They discussed technology exchanges and peaceful travel routes. But through it all, the young alien kept watching the humans beyond the glass. Her name was Zixtao, though the humans did not know this yet. She was a scientist trained to observe and record. But what she saw in the human quarters was unlike anything in her home world. Kethran ate alone, consuming their mineral paste in silence and efficiency. There was no gathering, no sharing, no joy. But these humans did something different. They sat together. They passed food to each other. They smiled and laughed while eating. Some even sang or told stories. Young humans sat with older ones, learning and listening. It looked like a celebration, but it happened every day. We should rest now, Velnoon announced as the ship's day's cycle ended. Tomorrow we will discuss mining rights in the outer systems. The delegations separated to their quarters. The humans went to their section of the station, while the Kethran moved to specially prepared rooms with mineral baths and crystal growing chambers. But Zixtao did not rest immediately. Using her scientific clearance, she accessed the observation decks that looked down into the human living areas. She told herself this was research, a study of alien behavior patterns. Below, she watched Chef Kim Do-hyun working in the main kitchen. His movements were smooth and purposeful as he chopped vegetables and stirred pots. But there was something else in the way he worked. He seemed happy. He smiled as he cooked, sometimes dancing slightly to music only he could hear. Other humans came to visit him while he worked. They talked and laughed together. Some helped prepare food, while others simply sat and watched. Children ran through the kitchen, grabbing small treats that the chef gave them with gentle scolding and bigger smiles. Zixtao had never seen anything like this behavior. In Kethran society, food preparation was done by designated workers in sterile facilities. Citizens collected their mineral rations and consumed them efficiently. There was no social component, no pleasure, no art. But what she observed here seemed almost magical. The humans transformed simple organic materials into something that brought them together. They created beauty and shared it freely. They made something that was more than just nutrition. As the night cycle continued, Zixtal remained at her observation post. She watched families eating together, couples sharing intimate meals, friends celebrating with special foods. Each scene showed her something new about human culture. She began to understand that food was not just fuel for these creatures. It was a language, a way of showing care and building relationships. It was art and science and love combined into something she had no words for in her own language. By morning, Zixtal had made a decision that would change everything. She was going to learn more about this human food culture, even if it meant breaking every rule her people had ever taught her. 3 days passed with formal meetings and careful diplomatic talk. The Kethran delegation followed their strict schedule perfectly. They woke at the same time, attended meetings without emotion, and returned to their quarters to rest. But Zixtal could not stop thinking about what she had seen in the human kitchen. On the 4th night, when her fellow Kethran entered their meditation cycles, Zixtal made a choice that terrified her. She left the alien quarters and walked through the station's corridors toward the human section. Her crystal body reflected the dim night lighting, making soft patterns on the walls. The kitchen was quiet when she arrived. Most humans were sleeping, but Chef Kim Do-hyun was still there, cleaning his equipment and preparing for the next day. He looked up in surprise when the young alien entered his domain. "Hello," she said through her translation device. The mechanical voice could not hide her nervousness. "I am Zixtal. I am a scientist." Kim set down his cleaning cloth and bowed slightly, the way his grandmother had taught him to greet guests. "I am Kim Do-hyun. I prepare food for the station crew. Are you lost?" "No, I am not lost." Zixtal moved closer, her internal light pulsing faster than normal. "I wish to understand your food preparation. For my research into human culture." Kim felt confused. The diplomatic briefings had been very clear about Kethran eating habits. They found human food disgusting. But this young alien seemed genuinely curious, not disgusted at all. "I do not think your people approve of our cooking," he said carefully. "My people do not need to know about my research," Zixtal replied. "Please, I have watched you work. There's something here I do not understand. Something beautiful." Kim studied her carefully. In his years as a chef, he had learned to recognize genuine hunger for more than just food. This alien was hungry for knowledge, for experience, for something her own culture could not provide. "What do you want to know?" he asked. "Everything. Why do you smile when you cook? Why do humans gather to eat together? Why does food preparation look like art?" Kim smiled, the same smile Zixtal had observed from her hiding place. Food is not just fuel for humans. It is how we show love, how we share culture, how we make memories with people we care about. He moved to his preparation area and began gathering ingredients. "Let me show you something simple. Something that will not harm your body." Kim had studied the medical reports about Kethran biology. Their systems could process certain organic compounds without damage. He selected vegetables that were safe and began to prepare a clear broth, the most basic of all human comfort foods. "This is called soup," he explained as he worked. "My grandmother made this of me when I was sick. Her grandmother made it for her. The recipe passes from family to family, generation to generation." Zixtal watched every movement with intense focus. "Your grandmother? What is grandmother?" "Family. The older female who helped raise me. She taught me to cook with love." Kim added herbs to the pot, the smell filling the kitchen. Each ingredient has meaning. This one is for warmth. This one is for healing. This one is for happiness. "Your food has emotional purposes?" "All food has emotional purposes, if you make it with care." The soup finished cooking. Kim poured a small amount into a cup and offered it to Zixtal. "This will not hurt you. I checked your medical data. But you do not have to try it if you do not want to." Zixtal stared at the cup for a long moment. Everything in her culture told her this was wrong, disgusting, primitive behavior. But something deeper called to her, a curiosity that had been growing since she first watched humans eating together. She took the cup with trembling hands and brought it to her mouth. The moment the warm liquid touched her sensory organs, her entire world changed. It was not just taste, though the flavors were complex and wonderful. It was warmth spreading through her crystal body. It was comfort she had never felt before. It was like being wrapped in something soft and safe. For the first time in her life, Zixtal understood what humans meant by the word pleasure. "This is extraordinary," she whispered, her translation device barely catching her words. "I feel different. Good different." Kim watched with joy as the alien experienced her first human meal, but his happiness was short-lived. Heavy footsteps in the corridor announced the arrival of trouble. Commander Lee Jinwoo entered the kitchen with 2 security officers and Dr. Park Minha. Behind them came Ambassador Velnoon, his crystal form blazing with anger. "Zixtal to Kethran Scientific Cast. You will return to quarters immediately," Velnoon commanded. "This contamination ends now." The young alien still held the cup of soup, its warmth seeming to give her strength. "I was conducting research, Ambassador, learning about human customs. You were degrading yourself with primitive consumption rituals. This behavior threatens everything we stand for." Velnoon turned to Commander Lee. "Your chef has violated our cultural boundaries. This incident could end all negotiations." Kim stepped forward. "I meant no disrespect. She asked about our food, and I thought sharing knowledge could help our peoples understand each other." "Understanding." Velnoon's voice grew cold. "There is nothing to understand. Kethran do not change. We do not adapt. We certainly do not consume organic waste like animals." Zixtal looked at the cup in her hands, then at Kim, then at her angry ambassador. "It is not waste. It is beautiful." The words hung in the air like a challenge that would change everything forever. The diplomatic crisis exploded across Unity Station like a shockwave. Ambassador Velnoon demanded that Zixtal be confined to quarters and prepared for immediate transport home. Commander Lee tried to calm the situation, but the damage was already done. The careful balance of first contact was falling apart. But Zixtal refused to hide. Despite the anger from her own people, she continued to visit the human sections of the station during her free time. The taste of that first soup had awakened something in her that she could not ignore. Dr. Yun Sola, the station's cultural expert, found Zixtal in the observation lounge 3 days after the kitchen incident. The young alien sat watching human families eat breakfast together, her crystal form reflecting the morning light. "You should not be here," Dr. Yun said gently. "Your ambassador is very angry." "My ambassador does not understand what I've learned," Zixtal replied. "These humans do something we have never done. They create joy from simple things." Dr. Yun sat beside her, curious about this alien who was willing to risk everything for human food. "What do you mean?" "Watch them." Zixtal pointed to a family at a nearby table. The small human asks for more food. The adult human gives it with a smile. But first, the adult touches the small one's head with affection. This is not just feeding. This is love made visible. Dr. Yun realized she was witnessing something unprecedented. An alien was developing concepts that did not exist in her own culture. "Would you like to learn more about human food customs?" Zixtal turned quickly, her internal light brightening. "You would teach me?" "I think understanding between our peoples is more important than following old rules." Dr. Yun began bringing Zixtal to the kitchen during quiet hours when Ambassador Velnoon was in meetings. Chef Kim was happy to continue teaching, despite the trouble it had caused him. He showed her how different ingredients combine to create new flavors. He taught her about spices and seasonings, about the difference between cooking for nutrition and cooking for happiness. "In my culture, we believe food preparation is like music," Kim explained as they chopped vegetables together. "Each ingredient is a note. The cook is like a musician, creating harmony." Zixtal's movements, one stiff and mechanical like all Kethran, began to change. She developed a rhythm as she worked, her crystal hands moving with growing confidence and grace. She was learning to create, not just to follow instructions. "I am becoming something new," she told Dr. Yun one afternoon. "Something that is not exactly Kethran anymore." The changes were more than just physical. Medical scans showed new neural pathways forming in her crystal brain structure. She was developing imagination, creativity, and personal preferences. These concepts did not exist in Kethran society, where all citizens thought and acted the same way. But her transformation came with a terrible price. The other Kethran delegation members began to avoid her completely. They spoke about her as if she was sick or broken. Ambassador Velnoon sent daily messages to their homeworld, describing her behavior as a dangerous infection that could spread to other Kethran. She is becoming individual. He reported in one transmission that the humans accidentally intercepted. This is the greatest threat our species has ever faced. Individual thought leads to chaos and destruction. The response in the Kethran collective was swift and harsh. A military fleet was dispatched to Unity Station with orders to retrieve Zixtal immediately. If she resisted, she would be declared dead to their society and exiled forever. Commander Lee received a message about the approaching fleet and called an emergency meeting. "They'll be here in 2 days," he told his senior staff. "They're demanding we return Zixtal for what they call cultural rehabilitation." Dr. Yoon looked sick. "That means they'll try to erase everything she's learned. They'll destroy the parts of her mind that make her unique." In the kitchen, Zixtal was preparing her most complex dish yet. She combined human cooking techniques with ingredients that reminded her of her homeworld's crystal formations. The result was beautiful to look at and amazing to taste, but it was also something that had never existed before. Kim watched her work with pride and sadness. "You become an artist," he said quietly. "I have become myself," Zixtal replied. "For the first time in my life, I know who I am beyond just being Kethran." When she served the dish to a group of human friends, their joy and appreciation filled her with warmth. But the happiness was mixed with fear. She knew her people were coming for her, and she knew what they would do. That night, Zixtal stood in the kitchen she had grown to love, surrounded by the tools and ingredients that had taught her about creativity and individual expression. The scent of herbs and spices filled the air, reminding her of all the meals she had shared with humans, all the laughter and friendship she had experienced. She made a decision that would shock everyone. Walking Commander Lee's office, she requested a meeting with the senior staff. "I want to stay here," she announced to the surprised humans. "I want to become a citizen of your alliance. I cannot go back to a life without this." She gestured toward the kitchen, but everyone understood she meant much more than just cooking. She was choosing a life of growth, creativity, and individual choice over the safety and certainty of her birth culture. The request sent shock waves through both species, and everyone knew the approaching Kethran fleet would not accept her decision peacefully. The Kethran fleet arrived like a storm of crystal and metal. 12 massive ships took positions around Unity Station, their weapons powered but not yet aimed. The message from Fleet Commander Zareth was clear and cold. Return Zixtal within 6 hours or face the consequences. Commander Lee stood in the main conference room, staring at the alien ships through the viewport. His hand shook slightly as he considered the impossible choice before him: protect one alien who wanted freedom, or save humanity's future among the stars. "Sir, we have incoming transmission," Communications Officer Beck Sungo announced. Fleet Commander Zareth appeared on the main screen, his crystal form larger and more intimidating than any Kethran they had met. "Commander Lee of the humans, you hold our citizen against her will. Return her immediately, or we will consider this an act of war." "She came to us freely," Lee replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "She has requested asylum under our laws." "Asylum?" Zareth's translated voice carried disgust. "She is sick, infected by your primitive ways. We will heal her and restore her to proper Kethran thinking." In the kitchen below, Zixtal worked calmly despite the crisis above her head. She was preparing something special, a meal that would represent everything she had learned about being human, while honoring the beauty of her Kethran heritage. Dr. Yoon found her there, adding delicate crystal-shaped vegetables to a glowing broth. "Aren't you afraid?" she asked. "I am terrified," Zixtal admitted, her hand steady despite her words. "But fear is another emotion I learned from humans. Before I felt nothing but duty. Now I feel fear, but I also feel hope." The deadline approached quickly. Commander Lee called another emergency meeting with his senior staff. the weight of an entire species' future pressed down on his shoulders. "We cannot fight 12 warships," Security Chief Han Minji reported. "Our weapons are no match for their technology. But we cannot just hand her over to be destroyed," Dr. Yoon argued. "She's become something beautiful, something new. To erase that would be murder." In his quarters, Ambassador Velnoon prepared his own message to the fleet. He blamed the humans for corrupting his young colleague, painting them as dangerous influences who could not be trusted. His report would likely end all future contact between the species. But Zixtal had her own plan. She sent a message to Communications Officer Beck, asking him to broadcast her words to the entire Kethran fleet. She wanted her people to hear directly from her, to understand her choice. The transmission began during the dinner hour. Zixtal stood in the main dining hall, surrounded by human families eating together. Her crystal form caught the warm light, making her look like a living jewel. "My people, I speak to you as Zixtal of the scientific cast, but also as someone who has learned to be more than just her birth name." Her voice carried through translation systems to every Kethran ship. "You call me sick, but I have never felt more alive." She gestured to the humans around her. "These beings have taught me that existence can be more than duty and efficiency. They have shown me creativity, joy, and individual choice. They have taught me to make beauty from simple things." In the kitchen, visible through the dining hall windows, Chef Kim continued cooking. The sight of him working with such care and happiness was broadcast to thousands of Kethran who had never seen such behavior. "You say I am contaminated, but I say I am growing. You fear that change will destroy our people, but I believe it could make us stronger." Zixtal's internal light pulsed brighter as she spoke. "I have learned to feel pleasure, to create art, to choose my own path. These are not weaknesses. They are gifts." On the Kethran ships, some younger crew members watched the broadcast with growing interest. They had never heard one of their own speak with such passion, such individual voice. It was forbidden, but it was also fascinating. Fleet Commander Zareth cut the transmission and sent his final ultimatum. "You have 1 hour to return our citizen. If you refuse, we will take her by force and end all contact with humanity forever." Commander Lee gathered his senior staff for the most important decision of his career: save one individual or save his entire species' place in the galaxy. The choice seemed obvious, but it felt like betrayal. Zixtal appeared in the conference room, carrying a tray of food. She had prepared individual portions of her fusion creation for each person present. "Before you decide my fate, please share this meal with me. Let this be my gift to you, regardless of what happens next." The humans looked at the beautiful dishes, each one a work of art that combined the best of both cultures. As they ate together, Zixtal's creation filled them with warmth and hope. "This is who I have become," she said quietly. "Not just Kethran, not trying to be human, but something new, something that bridges our peoples instead of dividing them." Commander Lee tasted her food and felt tears in his eyes. In that moment, he understood what humanity would lose if they gave her up, but he also understood what they would lose if they kept her. The final hour began counting down as the most difficult decision in human history hung in the balance. Commander Lee stood before the viewport, watching the Kethran fleet hold their threatening positions. The final hour was almost over, and he still had not made his decision. Then something unexpected happened. A small group of younger Kethran on one of the fleet ships sent a secret message to Unity Station. "We want to learn more about the individual called Zixtal." The message said, "Her words have made us curious about these human customs." Dr. Yoon brought the message to Commander Lee immediately. "Sir, maybe there's another way. Maybe some Kethran are ready for change." Lee made his choice. He opened a channel to Fleet Commander Zareth. "We cannot force Zixtal to return against her will. She has chosen to stay with us, and we will protect her right to choose." The response was swift and angry. "Then you have chosen war over wisdom." The Kethran Collective declares all contact with humanity ended forever. But as the fleet began to power up their weapons, something strange happened. 3 of the smaller ships broke formation and moved away from the others. The young Kethran who had sent the secret message were making their own choice to learn more about individual thinking. Fleet Commander Zareth was forced to deal with rebellion in his own ranks. Rather than start a battle that might spread dangerous ideas to Morta's people, he ordered a retreat. "This is not over," he warned. "The infected ones will face judgment someday." The Kethran fleet jumped to hyperspace, but they left behind something important. Those 3 smaller ships remained, carrying young Kethran who wanted to understand what Zixtal had discovered. 6 months later, Unity Station had become something no one had imagined. The Human Colonial Alliance created new laws to allow alien citizenship, with Zixtal as their first non-human citizen. The process was difficult and took many meetings, but finally she received official papers, making her a legal member of human society. The kitchen had become the heart of the station's new multicultural community. Zixtal worked alongside Chef Kim, creating fusion dishes that combined the best of different worlds. Her restaurant, called Bridge Between Stars, became famous throughout human space. Visitors came from across the colonies to try her unique cooking. But more importantly, young humans learned from her that differences between species could create beauty instead of fear. She taught cooking classes where humans and the few Kethran refugees worked together, sharing techniques and creating new recipes. Dr. Yoon documented the remarkable changes happening on the station. "Zixtal isn't just learning human culture," she reported. "She's creating something entirely new, a way for different species to share the best parts of themselves." The 3 Kethran ships that had stayed were learning too. Their crews visited the station regularly, trying human food and slowly developing their own individual personalities. They were still cautious, still connected to their original culture, but they were growing in ways their people had never allowed before. Chef Kim had become like family to Zixtal. He taught her not just cooking techniques, but human values like generosity, creativity, and love. She learned to laugh at silly mistakes and cry when saying goodbye to friends who were transferred to other stations. "You have become more human than many humans," he told her one day as they prepared for the evening dinner rush. "I have become myself," she replied, her crystal hands working skillfully with ingredients from 12 different worlds. That is all anyone can hope to be. The day that changed everything came when a new alien species, the aquatic Nethari, arrived for first contact with humanity. Their ship was beautiful but strange, filled with water and glowing with bioluminescent patterns. Commander Lee, now promoted for his successful handling of the Kethran crisis, asked Zixtal to help with the welcome ceremony. "You understand what it's like to be caught between worlds," he said. "Maybe you can help them feel comfortable here." Zixtal prepared a special meal that could be enjoyed both in air and underwater. She used techniques Kim had taught her, ingredients from her Kethran heritage, and new methods she had invented herself. The result was something that had never existed before, but somehow felt right. The Nethari delegation was suspicious at first, but when they tasted Zixtal's creation, their attitude changed completely. The food was a language they could understand, a way of saying welcome that needed no translation. "How did you know it would please us?" asked Ambassador Reef Sona, the Nethari leader. "Food is the first gift," Zixtal explained. "It says, I care about your comfort. I want you to be happy. I hope we can be friends." This message is the same for all living beings. That evening, as 3 different species shared a meal together in the Bridge Between Stars restaurant, Zixtal stood in the kitchen doorway, watching the scene. Humans laughed with Kethran refugees, while Nethari told stories that made everyone smile, even though the translation was sometimes confusing. Chef Kim joined her, both of them proud of what they had built together. "Any regrets about not going home?" he asked. Zixtal looked around the restaurant, filled with beings from different worlds, all brought together by the simple act of sharing food. On the walls hung photos of the families who had adopted her as a sister, daughter, and friend. The reservation book showed months of bookings from species across the galaxy. "I never went home," she said softly, "because I learned that home isn't where you come from. Home is where you choose to plant seeds and watch beautiful things grow."